To the Democratic Republic of Congo now, the Constitutional Court has approved the postponement of the country's presidential elections. They had been slated for next month. The delay could see President Joseph Kabila remain in office until April 2018.
The court's ruling is a blow to the opposition, which has been pushing for elections to be held this year before President Joseph Kabila's two-term mandate expires in December. By law, Kabila is barred from running in the next election. The opposition has accused the DRC president of wanting to hold on to power and then change the constitution to allow him to run again.
After listening to the Prosecutor General, I declare the request to be competent and grounded and take charge of the impossibility for the Senate to organize the vote planned on its February 12, 2015 date for all the reasons the Commission stated. I therefore allow for a new electoral date to be set up within a reasonable and objective time frame to ensure the planned vote conforms to the regular framework.
DRC's ruling coalition and some opposition members say the presidential vote should be held in April 2018. This agreement was ratified on Monday at cross-party talks held in the capital, Kinshasa. Most opposition parties, however, boycotted the talks and called for a general strike on Wednesday, the 19th of October, to put pressure on Kabila to step down. The European Union, on the other hand, says it will impose economic sanctions against DRC if it doesn't hold presidential and parliamentary elections in 2017.
We believe it's still possible to have elections in 2017 and also encourage everyone to be clear about the fact that the constitution will be respected, including the term limits of Kabila's mandate. We have also looked at all the instruments at our disposal to help end the violence and to encourage a political climate that is more constructive.
President Kabila took over power in January 2001 after his father Laurent Kabila was assassinated. Catherine Omwando, CCTV.
For more on this, we're now joined live from Brussels by CCTV's Mariam Zaidi. So Mariam, on what basis is the EU arguing that it's still possible for the DRC to have elections next year?
Well, possible or not, it's what the EU is calling for. They want the situation clarified by the end of the year so that a transitional period prior to an election can begin. Now, to support their argument, the EU is referencing a specific UN Security Council resolution 2277 specifically related to the DRC, which calls for peaceful, credible and, most importantly, timely elections. The EU is, of course, deeply concerned about the political situation in the Democratic Republic of Congo and has condemned all acts of violence, particularly in Kinshasa. Now, for them, the violence and political crisis in the DRC can only be resolved through the public and explicit commitment of all parties, both those in power and opposition, for them to respect the current constitution. And of course, this particularly pointed towards the direction of imposing a limitation on the presidential term of office. Obviously, under the current impasse, a delay in calling the elections keeps the President Joseph Kabila in office. Now, further to this, talks are being facilitated through the African Union in Kinshasa, and the EU sees this as a route to a more inclusive political process in the coming weeks.
Right, and the EU, Mariam, is threatening to impose economic sanctions against DRC should it not have elections next year. Tell us more about that.
Well, if the current presidential term comes to an end without prior agreement on the electoral calendar, yes, the EU is primed and ready to reconsider its relationship with the government of the DRC. Now, at the meeting of the EU foreign ministers in Luxembourg yesterday, they underlined that the EU will use all means necessary. They underlined that this would include individual restrictive measures against those responsible for serious human rights violation, those who promote violence, along with those who would try to obstruct peace and resolution of the conflict. Now, they have also drawn attention to the UN Security Council Resolution 2293, which can impose sanctions on individuals and entities responsible for serious human rights violations. But hopefully, before such steps are invoked, the foreign ministers called on the DRC government to make a clear commitment to the respect of human rights and the rule of law. It's calling for the release of all political prisoners and the discontinuation of politically motivated prosecutions and harassment against the opposition and civil society. Back to you.
All right, Mariam Zaidi, live in Brussels. Many thanks, Mariam.